Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me out there. Welcome to our UBC Sauder Continuing Business Studies Project Management webinar today. My name is Fiona McCauley. I'm Senior Program Leader, and I'm here today along with my colleagues Diana McKenzie and Jasmine Lee. Thank you for joining us today here in Vancouver. I know many of you are across BC as well as across Canada and in several other countries beyond. So thank you for joining us. We also have some special guests today, who I'll be introducing you soon. But before we start, I'd like to say this webinar will be recorded and you'll be sent via a follow-up email today's presentation. We will be presenting our guest speakers and there will be opportunity for questions along the way as well as towards the end. Also, our contact information is provided on the final slide. Andrew, our UBC admin, is here to help with any technical issues. If you're having any issues, please use the chat line and we will try and help you along the way. So let's start, and perhaps others will join as we go. The first thing I'd like to say to everyone very briefly is that we are very pleased and proud to announce that we are now UBC Sauder under the UBC Sauder School of Business. Formerly, we were continuing studies, and we're very happy to move forward with this new opportunity. Today's webinar has a focus on project management and the project manager. We will be reviewing such themes as what is project management, industry trends and job outlook. We have a project management graduate story, as well as towards the end, we'll talk a little bit about our programs connected to the UBC Certificate in Project Management. And we'll be very pleased to take questions in the chat line. I would like to personally welcome our keynote guest speakers today. Robert Gotham is our program advisor for UBC Continuing Studies. He's also principal of Callium Consulting. We have Diana Cooper, recruitment consultant with Annex Consulting Group. And we have Anastasia Koutalianos, who is a communications strategist consultant, writer-editor for Nada Todo Communications, and is also our UBC Certificate in Project Management graduate of 2016. A project management perspective. I would like to personally welcome our keynote speaker, Robert Gotham. Robert is the principal of Callium Consulting and a leading expert in the field of project management. Prior to founding Callium, Robert gained more than 20 years of experience in the trenches in senior project management capacities for IBM, Singapore Airlines, and organizations around the world. Now settled here in Vancouver, he has shifted his emphasis to teaching specifically in UBC's continuing studies, MBA, and executive education programs. Robert specializes in the study of failed projects, which is very interesting, and using the lessons learned to help organizations translate hindsight from the past into foresight that can be used to ensure the success of future projects. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Fiona, and welcome to everyone who's joined us this morning. So as Fiona outlined there, I'm part of the faculty who instructs here at UBC with a focus on project management. And I thought what I'd do this morning for you is just to give you a brief introduction to what is project management and why does it matter to today's working professionals. To get that conversation going, I thought I'd share with you a couple of definitions. The first of these definitions is from the Project Management Institute, PMI, as it is often abbreviated to. PMI says that a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. That is a very broad definition, and when we look around the economy, you'll find that a good proportion of the work that organizations conduct qualifies to be regarded as a project. Project management is then defined to be the art and science of managing a project from inception to closure, as evidenced by successful achievement of the agreed project objectives. So when we look at today's economy, projects are everywhere. A project exists anytime there is a need, desire, or opportunity, and an organization invests time, money, and resources with the intent of achieving some form of desired outcomes that are of benefit to the organization and their stakeholders. The implications of that are quite important. It essentially means that a good chunk of what is happening in the economy qualifies to be a project. And what we're finding in today's job marketplace is that more and more organizations are recognizing that what they do are in fact projects. And as such, there is a growing emphasis when hiring that is being placed on project management type skills. What organizations want is people who have the skills to lead projects successfully. I think have a leg up in the marketplace. And as such, I think it's worth every working professional adding some degree of project management knowledge and skills to their portfolio of capabilities. The slide I'm sharing with you now summarizes the role of the project manager. On the right-hand side of this slide, I've put target outcomes. And essentially, organizations want people who can deliver value. Projects are used to create new products and services for an organization. And in doing so, projects create value for the organization. We do that by helping to meet the needs of the stakeholders. So projects are focused on stakeholders, meeting their needs, and creating value for organizations. On the left-hand side of the screen, the 4 blue circles really represent the core of what project managers are trying to do. First of all, project managers are there to get things organized. Work, people, and projects can be complex. There's many moving parts, there's many decisions to be made, and there's many things to be organized. And project management at its core is about taking a lead role in making sure that work is properly organized. In getting work properly organized, that helps ensure that the organization's resources are used efficiently. Organizations all have constraints on the availability of time, money, and people. And organizations want to get the biggest bang for the buck out of those resources. And so a good portion of what project managers are striving to do is to make sure that the resources that they have charged for are indeed used as efficiently as possible. Ultimately, the fact that we have got things organized and used our resources efficiently allows us to make sure that things get done. Organizations want progress. They want people who have the skills to come in, crystallize a project, organize a project, and build momentum so that the project can ultimately deliver. Now, to do that, we also then need to have interpersonal skills and the skills to build and lead teams. Projects are done by people, for people, and so as project manager, we need to have great interpersonal skills and communication skills. So when you really summarize what project management is all about, it boils down to these 4 blue circles. Get things organized, use resources efficiently, build an effective team, and get things done. And it's through those 4 that we achieve project objectives, and it's through that that we add value to the organization and help it achieve stakeholder needs, wants, and expectations. So I use this diagram as a summary of what the courses here at UBC are all about. We're focused on helping teach you organizational skills, leadership skills, the administrative skills, and the fine art of getting projects done. As I note here, and it was noted in the definition of project management is part science and is part art. The science of project management is very much the science of project management is very much the process of project management and creating plans and controlling and managing plans. The art of project management is very much the art of getting decisions made, working with people, making sure that people are collaborating effectively, and hence getting things done. And so the courses that we offer are really focused on these four blue ones. And I think that's important because when you go out there and start talking to employers, and when you go start talking to CEOs and the very senior people in organizations, it is these four blue elements that they value most. And so they're looking for people who can bring those four to the table. And if you want to get to that point, it is project management training and education, I think, that underpins those four blue capabilities. As I said, it is partly an art and it is partly a science. The science is project management methodologies, such as those process recommendations and practices recommended by the Project Management Institute, the policies, processes, procedures, tools, and techniques of project management. So through our classes here at UBC, we attempt to teach you the basics and the frameworks that are recommended practices from the Project Management Institute. But what we try and do then is balance that with the art of project management. If you're going to be a successful project manager, I think you have to understand personalities. You have to know how to manage and set expectations. You need to know how to motivate people. You need to understand, why projects succeed and why projects fail. You need to be able to guide a project forward. You need to be something of an amateur psychologist in some ways. You need to understand leadership and how to set culture and how to navigate your way through the politics that exist in most large organizations and hence get reflected into the project environment. I think it's a challenging environment and I think it's an exciting environment. I've personally enjoyed my project management career, and what I really enjoyed is being able to step back at the end of a project and look at it back on what we as a team have achieved and say, guys, we did that. We made this happen. We've achieved something positive. And I think that that's a great sort of career aspiration to get to that point where you have those skills to reliably and regularly deliver successful projects. So that's a little bit of background on what project management is and why it matters. And to summarize, I would simply say that organizations want people with the skills to get things organized and make things happen. And that is what project management is directly focused on.
Thank you very much, Robert. I found it very interesting, and I agree, projects are everywhere. And it was very interesting how you mentioned that a project manager's role is to bring value to our organization, and some of those key skills are getting things done and bringing that value. So I welcome the audience to start posting your questions in our chat line. But in the meantime, Robert, I have a couple of questions for you. One is, what types of people make a good project manager?
I think you need to be organized. Ultimately, it is the art of organizing people and processes and making sure that we have the right people in the right place at the right time with the right equipment and the right raw materials to get the job right. Now, in large complex projects, that does take a lot of leadership and organizational skills. Secondly, I think you have to be good with people. Projects are done by people and projects are done for people. And so I think you have to have an empathy, an understanding of how to lead people, how to work with people, and bring the best out of people. The implications, it means communication skills, it means leadership skills, it means EQ. I think that, organizational skills and interpersonal skills really lie at the core of the foundation of a successful project management career.
And another question, you mentioned leadership. Can you learn to be a leader, or do you have to be born a leader? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've actually done extensive research into the area of leadership, and I've studied and interviewed many highly successful leaders from around the world. The conclusion is that everyone can learn to become a better leader. I think that some people are natural leaders, and so they have a higher start point than others, but I firmly believe that everyone can improve. And I think given the right guidance, everyone can get to a level where they can lead groups reasonably effectively. The more you put into it, the better and better and stronger you can get at it. But it does take, for many people, guidance. And again, through the course we offer here at UBC, we attempt to provide guidance on leadership skills as well. So I do believe people can develop skills, coaching, and guidance.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. As I said, feel free to type in your questions. All questions are great in the chat line, and Diana and Robert will be helping to answer those questions. But I'd like to, watching our time here, I'd like to move on. And our next part of our presentation is about industry trends and outlook. And I'd like to welcome Diana Cooper, IT recruitment consultant for Annex Consulting. The president and founder, Stacy Cernick of Annex, is actually on our project management advisory here at UBC. And I'm very pleased to have Diana take time out of her busy work schedule to talk a little bit about the industry from their perspective. Diana joined Annex in July 2016 as a member of the recruitment team, but has been in the industry for a few years. During this time, she has been recruiting on a variety of opportunities within British Columbia's IT industry. Her dedication and passion for recruitment, coupled with a strong desire to help people grow and succeed, drives her commitment to deliver excellence in her work. Throughout her time at Annex, Diana has enjoyed the opportunities to help individuals shape their careers and their next great opportunity. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Hi, everyone. So we'll start off with just talking about, I guess, the different project management roles that we have, and of course, go over the market for project managers. So when you, I guess, decide to get into a career as a project manager, there's different, I guess, positions that you can take. A lot of people originally start off as a project coordinator. However, even though some people see the project coordinator as a junior role, you can work your way up to senior project manager. Some people just like to stay in that coordination phase. And then if you decide to move up, next would be project analyst, which is similar-ish to a BA. You're just analyzing the current project, gathering requirements, and putting together a plan. Project manager is the execution of usually whatever the requirements are. And then up from that is the program manager. They're usually managing multiple project managers that are dealing with multiple projects. Portfolio manager works closely with the PMO director. And the PMO director is the kind of the person that says yes or no to projects. So they're kind of like, I guess, the top of the band career-wise where you would go as a project manager. And go to the next slide. So right now, we've got all of this information off of Indeed. Currently, right now, there are about 2,500 project management positions that are currently open, not filled in British Columbia. Canada, we're looking at about 13,000. In Seattle, there's 10,000, and then all throughout the United States, there's 300,000. So there's lots of work available, and that's just currently as of June 2017. Okay, in the past 90 days, so in the past few months, we've had about 30 plus roles. I'd say between like 30 to 40 roles open in open for Annex that we're currently working on. And in 2017 so far, we've had around 150 positions open. It actually is getting quite a bit busier. We've actually had probably, since I submitted these slides, like at least 5 more project manager roles open up. And then according to PMI Project Management Talent Gap, there's 15.7 million new project management roles that are global. So not even in just North America, there's tons and tons of work available. High growth industries for project managers. So these are the top industries if you do go into project management that you would normally work in. A lot of them would be into manufacturing, business services, finance and insurance, oil and gas, information services, construction, utilities. There you'll be working on multiple different projects. At Annex, we specialize in information services as well. That's our main domain. Information technology PMs. So if you ever get a job through Annex, these are a lot of the types of projects that you'd be working on. Customer software. There's a lot of project managers that work on software development projects, working alongside with business stakeholders, developing a product that they want. Commercial off-the-shelf software. That's usually like an ERP system. It's like a big ERP system that people are familiar with, or like Oracle. So like an organization, say for example TELUS wants an implementation of Oracle, like that would be considered a commercial off-the-shelf software project. Infrastructure deployment, that's usually like the hardware side of things. The PM will make sure that that's going smoothly, the implementation of that. Multiple business projects, project management best practices, like those are like the types of projects that you'd be working in the IT side of things. Okay, and salary rates for PMs. This is more so what we're looking on the IT side, but it'd probably be fairly similar-ish. When you're first like fresh out of school, most likely around the $30 range is what you would get more so as a project coordinator type role or a very junior PM. Intermediate, you're looking 50 to 60 per hour, the 60 to 80K mark for sure. Senior project manager, minimum would be 70. I'd actually say it's a little bit higher. I'd say probably like 80 would be fairly standard, 80 plus. Expert, definitely 90 plus. A lot of project manager roles are contract, so it's definitely by the hourly rate. Next slide. Progressing as a project manager. So these are the different things that you would do, or like tips that we would give to progress and really improve your career is just improve your theoretical foundation, lead projects of increasing complexity, work within PMO environment, always deliver within scope and quality and time, engage in ongoing continuous learning, and develop people management skills. And the two things that are very important, especially in the project management world, is establish your reputation, because that's how you're going to keep getting hired on for more and more projects, and build long-term relationships. Those are soft skills that are absolutely vital as a project manager. Questions?
Thank you very much, Diana. Some really interesting stats there. And I'm curious, I have a couple of questions. You mentioned there are jobs and roles for infrastructure deployment, and another one for business projects where IT is a secondary focus. Can you comment a little bit on that, sort of some examples?
Yeah, so infrastructure projects would be like a data center migration. So a data center is usually where larger organizations, I'll just use TELUS again, they'll have a data center that's usually not within their building just in case there's like a natural disaster. So an infrastructure PM could be brought in, say if they're like using one vendor, say they're using, I don't know, IBM, and they want to move to like Dell. So they would bring in a project manager to move all the hardware and also migrate all the applications from one data center to another. So that'd be like that's like a large scale infrastructure example. And then on the business side of things, there could be like more like a training program. Like say if there is a new ERP software implementation within an organization, such as implementing like Oracle, for example, into TELUS. There would have to be like a training involved. So it's like, yeah, it's like they'd have to know the technical side of Oracle, but they'd also have to have the business side of like the soft skills to develop a training program for, I guess, the entire organization. So that would be like more like on the business side of things.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Here's another question. I'm just looking at the chat line. So going from a project coordinator role into a full kind of project manager role, how many years of experience would be kind of a, ballpark average, moving from coordinator to manager? Any thoughts?
The project manager, I'd say definitely minimum, absolute minimum 2 to 3 years, depending on the organization. If you really want to move your way up faster, go for less large-scale corporate organizations, because then within the larger scale organizations, I'll just use TELUS again, there's a lot more, I guess, hoops to go through. There's a lot more competition. I would just go for like smaller type organizations if you're really trying to progress your way faster through there. But however, yeah, usually 2 to 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Another question. How well do project managers have to know the domain or the specific industry sector? Is that really important, or is it?
Yeah, I would say it's fairly important, just because if you're used to working on construction projects, it's going to be a little bit hard to work on IT type projects, just to go from like one to the other, because you have to know, I guess, like anything, like you have to know the product that you're working with, the people that you're working with will be very different. So I'd say it's fairly important. Usually project managers kind of stick to like one domain. They may change their career, but I've never really seen a project manager that does like construction one contract and then does IT another contract and then does like, I don't know, like a different industry like healthcare. Like they usually stick to one and kind of grow within that domain.
Okay, and if you're more on the IT, sort of generally just technologies with all of us these days, it's maybe more possible to, transition health, government, education, a little more diversity there as a project manager?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. That's easier to do for sure.
So I have a question, I think, from the audience. Our guest says, Sarah says, I worked in telecom industry as a sales manager, but I'm really interested in projects. From which step beginner should start the project career? I'm just trying to decipher what she means.
Yeah, I guess first step is, probably registering in a program that UBC offers. Definitely learning more about the industry, because once you kind of like educate yourself fully what a project manager does, it's kind of easier to learn what the first steps would be. But definitely if you don't have experience, definitely get the education, join different groups, network, try to get some work that way. But yeah, definitely try to get some sort of certification.
Yeah, and I would also add to that and say, if you're a sales manager, just start exploring and getting to know what project management is about. Another question, Diana, for you is, working for the public sector, do project management jobs have different skills required for the public sector?
Not really. It's pretty much the same thing. Like if you're doing IT for the public or the private sector, it's not necessarily the same different skill sets. Like some public sector clients, for example, the health authorities, really only them in particular, like previous experience in the health authorities. But however, no, not really. It's pretty much the same. As long as you're qualified and you worked on like the type of projects that they're looking for, like they're fairly open.
And Diana, I have another question. Sorry, we're bombarding you with questions today.
I know.
Do project managers also have to know about business analysis? And I sometimes hear that they wear multiple hats.
Yes.
Any comments?
Yeah, they definitely should have a definite understanding of what business analysis is for sure, because just from what I've seen, even if you're a project manager in some way, shape, or form, you're going to have BA duties. You might have to kind of like review the requirements if you're halfway through the project and they're not working, and you have to kind of revise the scope. There's so many BA PM hybrid roles where you come in and you gather requirements and then you do, I guess, the rollout of the project as a project manager. But yeah, definitely, I highly recommend really understanding what a BA does if you do get into project management, because it will only benefit you.
Okay, thank you. And one last question. I'm just going to reword it a little bit for the audience. Are you more inclined to land a job in project management with a PMP certification?
To be honest with you, it depends on the client. It's
Okay.
pretty open. A lot of the clients, like, say if you don't have your PMP certification, you might just have to have like 2 or 3 more years experience. Like, there's even some clients that don't even require a degree, but you have to have quite an extensive amount more of years experience. So it definitely like helps, but it doesn't prevent people from finding work. But because we are in such like a knowledge-based society, it's definitely, there's a lot of employers that are like, okay, this person has their PMP, so it's definitely, I think it's beneficial to have overall.
Okay, thank you. So please continue to post your questions in the chat line, and Diana can stay just for a few more minutes, but we'll all help to answer those questions in the chat line. And I will now move on to our next part of our presentation today. And to have a student graduate perspective on taking our program, but also, more importantly, what project management means to her out there in the marketplace. So welcome, Anastasia. Anastasia is a writer, editor, and communications consultant and has worked freelance since 2003. Previous clients include Habitat for Humanity, Greater Vancouver, Conciliation Canada, Small Housing BC, Westside Seniors Hub, Government of Canada, and in particular the Indian residential schools, GNF Financial Group, and Canada-wide media. So quite an extensive array of different organizations there. Anastasia is also the co-founder of Talking Trash, a bi-weekly radio show on Co-op Radio, and the BC Tiny House Collective, which shape their careers and find their next great opportunity. Welcome, Anastasia.
Thank you so much. So I'll just, I guess, speak to how I came to the program itself and what I took away from it. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to jot them down on the side. So like Fiona was mentioning, my background is mainly in publishing. So I first did a degree at the University of Toronto. I had an honors bachelor, and my major was in French literature and language, so you can imagine the opportunities that exist out of that. But shortly after I graduated, I got an opportunity to work with the Indian Residential Schools Resolution Canada, so for the federal government, and I was doing research consulting and writing, which is a great opportunity. But in 2010, they started leaning out the department, and I was laid off. And so at that time, I decided to focus more in terms of writing and editing, and at a time when print publishing was kind of becoming a dying beast. So I was falling into contracts, but I was finding that I was dabbling in many things. So it wasn't just writing and editing, but it was a lot of, I guess, project management without knowing it was project management. but found that I kind of needed another springboard to possibly get more contracts. So I had just finished doing, I was the Director of Communications and Marketing with Habitat for Humanity Greater Vancouver, and it was at that time when I ended the contract that I decided to explore. It was actually either business management or project management, both of which were offered at UBC, but I decided to go with the project management. So my background, again, is in marketing and communications, and I don't think, or at least for myself, I came to project management thinking that, or not really having a solid sense of what it was, or thinking that it might be more for people in tech or construction. But I'm pretty much in the arts. And so I graduated from the program in 2016. I took the full-time program and learned not only about the process itself, but really took away a pretty versatile toolkit. Some of the things that I liked most about the program were the focus on communication and engagement strategies, be that with stakeholders or within your team. I think Rob touched on that before, speaking to the fact that you have to be very organized to be a project manager, but you also have to have really strong communication skills. And I think that's really important, not only with your sponsor, but also when working with the people within your team. So the course itself actually speaks a bit to that. So you do work in, you're in a team group environment pretty much from the first day. And you are working through the coursework through this team project from March until June, until we graduated. And I think it gives you kind of a real world kind of sense of how, you know, project management will work in the real world. And I think ultimately it just gives you a better sense of how to create structure within your projects, and have a better sense of kind of targets that you need to hit along the way, but also to really have, if anything, I think the most important thing that I learned from it is really that initial phase of really scoping out the project, really having a sense of expectation, how you're going to be working with your client and what have you. And since then, I've kind of, I guess, worked on several projects. One, as Fiona mentioned, is that I co-founded the BC Tiny House Collective. So this is very much my own project, but also, so I'm working with another collaborator, but is even more so a program managing, because we are creating everything and anything that kind of comes out of this collective. So that it's not just organizing and delegation. You're really looking at strategic planning. Facilitation is very important. So that's having meetings, but also, if I'm going to speak, you know, a bit project management talk, really looking at requirements and needs of the people that you're working with, so that you're not just creating things that you think are valuable, but you're creating a project that is of value to the people that ultimately will be using it the most. And then again, a lot of things in terms of the social media aspects, websites, so a lot of outreach and connection, developing and executing programming, but that always falling in line with strategic planning. So I think, and Rob taught this in the course itself, it's like really looking at ensuring that there's a value add to the organization. You're not just simply creating projects because they sound great and they'll make you innovative or appear innovative within your industry, but they actually have some correlation or alignment to the organizational values. And through that, we're doing a lot of things. So documentary film, sponsorship, writing. So it's not just a delegation. There's a lot of time management that's involved in it, a lot of collaboration with multiple partners, and really doing what I think is the most important is just the follow through. And since the program itself, I have done some other specific project management projects. So right now I have a contract with Small Housing BC, and we are doing some memorandum of understanding, kind of developing some projects, currently exploring small housing through various municipalities in BC, and this is about a 1.5-year contract. And so I wouldn't say that I am a traditional project manager, but I think that project management, and I think Diana was kind of speaking to this, is it's not just kind of a one-size-fits-all anymore. You're seeing coordination and management in all industries and sectors, be that arts and culture, engineering, software, publishing, marketing. And so I do think that there's a lot of versatility, and I don't know that you necessarily have to do a PMP. I think that this program sets you up well, but I don't want to say that this program is kind of you make this program whatever you want it to be. So it's basically a tool for you to get a better sense of how to initiate and manage and complete your projects, but how well you do in the program or what you take out of it is really individual. And I guess these are just some of my personal kind of thoughts in terms of top skills. So time management, I think, is crucial in terms of project. And that's not only so that you do things according to when the sponsor has, but you really are, that you're building a level of trust. And I think that that's what's most important within project management, is that people can rely on you and that your word means something. I think flexibility and adaptability are crucial. I don't think, like recently we just did a project with the BC Tiny House Collective. We did an event out of Science World on May 20th, and like Murphy's Law, everything in the 11th hour kind of went awry. And you really need to be able to manage things, but also manage people in such a way where you kind of, that whatever stress or kind of unraveling that happens is kind of not felt on the sponsor or team level, that you really need to be able to manage kind of things as they're happening. I think delegation is super important as well. And I think that this is a skill that I'm still trying to craft. And I think that the program gave some good insight into facilitation and team building and communication skills. But I do think that that's probably a lifelong craft of figuring out how to really build a strong team and then kind of give the reins over and not be a try to do it all yourself kind of project manager, because I think that that's kind of a failure. Strategic to me is probably as important as being flexible, and making sure that the project actually has a value add to the organization. And oftentimes, and I'm on a board for a not-for-profit, we see that a lot of not-for-profits, but companies are building or developing or executing things that really just don't add anything to the organization at all. It's just something novel. So I think that the project, if you can add that strategic level and really kind of analyze the benefit and whether, you know, the value is there in terms of pulling resources or the cost of it or what have you, I think that's always great. And lastly, I would say communication. Verbal, very important. And that tone is very important as well, that you can really say things, especially when things don't go right, how you convey that to your team or your sponsor or your partners is crucial. It'll really, I think, set you apart from other project managers. And also written. I think it's important that reports are detailed and that there's no mistakes. and all that jazz. And I guess that's all I have to say. If there's any questions, shoot.
Thank you, Anastasia. That was I hear an echo, so I hope everyone's okay with this. I really think you really highlighted kind of the reality of being a project manager, because it's not always an easy task. There are challenges along the way. And it's interesting how you connected back to what Robert was saying in terms of, does the project itself bring value? But also as a project manager, are you bringing value, and how you're connecting with your stakeholders and building that trust. So my question is, Anastasia, and I welcome the audience to also in the chat line add some questions. Do you think that this, by doing the project management program, did it bring more work, contracts, and opportunities? Has it made a difference?
I think I'd have to say yes and no, because the thing is, the last few contracts that I've gotten, I didn't even need to show my CV. So I do think that it's coming from word of mouth, and I think it's also from, I'd say I'm more confident because I feel like I have the educational kind of background in order to find this work more easily. But I think also what Rob was saying, I think sometimes it's also just skills that you naturally have. So I've always been very organized. I have exceptional time management. I'd like to think that, I'm a natural leader, but at the same time, I do think that the program opened my mind to the fact that I still need finessing, that you ultimately don't always get the ideal team. So how do you work around that? But I'd say definitely it has opened doors. But I would also say that those doors opened because I made a great effort for them to open. So I connected with several of the instructors after the program. I also, reached out during the program just to get a better sense of what kind of work I could find or what potential was there within project management for me to kind of get a specialty, so that I wasn't just an average Joe, because I was coming from, years of writing and publishing and doing that I wanted to somehow leverage that in my job search. And I think that it's worked. A lot of things have come out from the BC Tiny House Collective project, and that's just because we've had a lot of press, and so it's showing that I can achieve media outreach and engagement that way. So it's kind of, yeah, I would have to say yes and no. Yes and no. But I do think that it's ultimately up to the student to really to use this program as a jumping start into whatever industry they want. And I do think that the program does set you up for success. There is some interesting, components, be that, looking at your CV, redoing your CV, also looking at doing informational interviews, so you really get a chance to, while you're still in the program, see, what are the opportunities, and kind of speak to people in the industry that are doing project management in your interest, your sector of interest, and see whether you can even start building relationships there. But I'd have to say that my network has also led to that. I think you need to be, again, just to echo what Rob said before, you really need to be a people person.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think you have a really interesting background coming from communications and media. And we're seeing in the last 2, 3, 4 years that traditionally, engineering, IT, construction, but it's now reaching across so many different areas, the project management role. So again, asking the audience, if you have questions for Anastasia, please use the chat line. And I'm just going to take the last few minutes of our webinar here to just briefly introduce our programs, because students are starting to ask about the difference between the different formats. Anastasia actually did take our full-time intensive program, and so I'll speak to that too. So this is me. I'm Fiona, and I oversee currently the project management portfolio, which consists of full-time, part-time, and online. And I'd like to do a little poll. I'm just going to try for a quick poll, if for those of you who are still on our webinar. And just bear with me, I need 1 minute to find my poll. The question's up on the slide. And just trying to find the poll. The question, are you interested in enrolling for the fall 2017 program session starting September? Yes or no? And the poll should be up on your screen. And for those of you who would wish to participate, we can see that many of you actually are thinking of this fall. So the next one will be next March in winter 2018. And so I have 11 yeses and 8 noes, and maybe some of you are undecided, which makes sense too. Okay, one more question. Are you only interested in the project management online format? That means perhaps you're not in Vancouver, or in Vancouver, you're only interested in the online format, yes or no? And I see 11 of you are interested in the online, and 9 of you, perhaps for different reasons, are thinking about the full-time, part-time, in-class option. Oops. Okay. My next question. Oh, sorry, did I only have 2 questions? Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Apologies there. Okay, moving forward, and thank you for your participation to all of you in the poll. And Anastasia, I see, is in the chat line too, answering some of your questions. So thank you very much, Anastasia, for that. And as she's answering questions in the chat line, I will talk a little bit about who we are here at UBC. So often we get the question, am I the right fit for the program? So my title, the title of my slide is Who Should Participate? And our programs are actually for a wide variety of people, and what stage step you are at in your career and what kind of background. So mid-career and developing project managers wanting to build more specialized skills in leading projects. And you know, it does build a stronger foundation and provides confidence too in moving forward in your career and the types of projects you take on and the responsibilities you might take on. Secondly, managers and specialists looking to fill knowledge gaps and add project management expertise to their skill set. In some of those gaps, you may have a lot of technical skills in scheduling and budgeting and planning, but you're looking for gaps in leadership and building teams and stakeholder engagement. Thirdly, project teams team leads and coordinators and planners, requiring a more structured program for applied and practical career development, and that would be building, a really solid skill set for project management and the related skills. And another point is we often have very, very experienced project managers seeking formal university training for career advancement. And, navigating through your career at times, as Anastasia mentioned, you may not need project management program or a PNP behind you, but you could be caught in the middle of your career where you're changing organizations, and maybe you're starting to mentor teams and departments, and so having a more formal training program in your resume or CV can be a very significant step. And I think we really believe at UBC in lifelong learning for professionals and developing our skills. My next slide, just briefly, all of this is on our website, but just briefly I'm going to highlight. We have our full-time program. Next intake is September 5th, goes to December 7th. This program is eligible for student funding because it's full-time and is offered on a new pay-as-you-go option. I'm sorry, the slide, I see the widescreen formatting is a bit skewed there. Apologies for that. So pay-as-you-go plus your deposit in 6 monthly installments. This program is held here downtown at UBC Robson Square, or right under the Vancouver Art Gallery. And heads up, everyone, for those interested in full-time, we have an early bird, which means the application deadline. Get your application in, and once you're accepted and present a deposit, it's all due by July 11th to take advantage of also an early bird bonus. Part-time also starts September, follows the same format, September 6th to December 6th. And this piece in the fall, September to December, is what we call the core program. And students complete this core on Monday and Wednesday evenings and Saturdays here at UBC Robson Square. Once you finish your core in December, you have 18 months to choose a specialization and complete your specialization. When you complete your specialization, you are awarded the UBC certificate in project management. We have 3 specializations: strategic leadership, which is here at Robson Square through executive education of the UBC Sauder School of Business. We have business analysis, which is 100% online, and a new specialization, agile leadership, here also at UBC Robson Square. And our third format is 100% online, and the first prerequisite course, Project Management Fundamentals, starts September 5th. We also will have another one probably sometime in October, November starting. Those sessions are continuous throughout the year, kind of 24/7. And there are 6 online courses, and you can take advantage if you're interested in speeding through this. There's a fast track option where you can take these courses in a shorter condensed form and sort of zoom through it more quickly. There's also a discount if you choose that option. But often students take, a couple years to take 1 or 2 courses per season, per term. Each online course is facilitated by industry experienced online tutor. This is really important to me, and Robert is also one of our online tutors. And because students, it's not self-directed, self-paced, you are not alone. You're with your instructor, tutor, as well as with your classmates, getting feedback all the time. And I realize we're going over time, so thank you for those who are still here with us. We really appreciate that. So what's special about the UBC approach? I'm going to hand it over to Rob to speak to that. Thanks, Rob.
Yes, I think here to focus very heavily on applying project management practice. There are many other institutions obviously offering project management classes and bag of results out there. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of organizations make is that they focus on regurgitating the material from the Project Management Institute, not helping you understand how to apply that. Ultimately, employers want people who can make things happen and get things organized, as I said earlier. And that means you need to know how to apply the materials. We put an emphasis on both online and in the classroom. In addition to that, I would say that the UBC team here have industry experience. So you're dealing with a set of instructors who have all had the experience of being hands-on project manager. They've had that responsibility, they've had ability for budget and resourcing and getting a project across the finish line successfully. You can't learn that any other platform than having done that. In some of the other institutions, they are using people who have perhaps been in project management but haven't really led large projects before, and other institutions, they are relying on academics to teach project management, which here at Continuing Studies we do. In addition to that, I would add, put in chat room, some of you may have seen that certainly on my side, I try to bring my original research into the program as well. So I am Google's #1 pick for the causes of project failure and what it takes to make a project a success. To search the internet, why do project, you'll find that I'm #1. And so my website is actually used as a reference by major universities in the world. I get Harvard, I get Stanford, I get all of the major universities visiting my website as a reference source. And so other universities, even the big names, you're getting an interpretation of that research, whereas you've come to us, you're getting the original person who did that research. So I think that's one differentiator nobody else in Vancouver or the world can actually match us up with.
Thank you, Rob. And to actually speak to the audience, Rob is in so much demand. He also teaches at UBC Sauder MBA program, post undergrads, as well as has advised us on many different initiatives here. So my next slide, as I wrap up our session, earlier one of our students mentioned, is it just in the IT or for that matter, the traditional sectors, IT, engineering, construction. And you'll see at the top in a little bold are more the traditional areas: resources, mining, oil and gas, construction, government, healthcare, IT and technology, software development. But all the others I've listed, and there are so many more, including things like research and manufacturing. Real estate's a big area now for project management. All the communications fields. If sales, someone mentioned they were in a sales manager role, but that also leads to business development. And so as we move into this, well, we're already in the 21st century and technology is a very important issue, but business and project management locally and globally continues to be such a connector for all of us. So those are some of the profiles of where we've had students come from. And my next slide is we have done grad feedback surveys, and they are surveys, and ours are a little complex because there's a mix of full-time, part-time, and online graduates. But 2 or 3 things really stand out for me. The UBC program enabled me to increase responsibility in my current position, perhaps open doors. It allowed me to engage in new opportunities, projects, and partnerships, perhaps through networking. You are, kind of seeing outside what you normally do as well, and helping to change careers, whether that's in the same industry or not, but taking on new roles. I've put up this slide for everyone just, you know, it all starts with understanding what as going back to what Rob said earlier in the presentation, what is project management? What is a project? What is the role of project manager? And these are some sources. We have the pmvolunteers.org, we have the PMI BC chapter, as well as the international organization PMI.org, which is, if you are going for the PMP, you apply through the PMI to submit your experience and your hours to be and to have the opportunity to take that exam. But I encourage everyone to explore. Last slide, just a reminder, we have many applications already. We're still accepting applications for September start. If you're interested in full-time, that early bird is July 11th. If you don't know which is right for you, full-time, part-time, or online, we encourage you to reach out to us. All of you have different backgrounds, different goals, and we're very happy to give you some ideas on which program might be the best fit, and encourage you to reach out. All questions are great. So thank you very much. If you do have a couple of questions, I'm going to be here for a couple more minutes on the chat line. And our final slide, we have Diana McKenzie. Diana oversees currently the full-time program. Jasmine Lee is overseeing the part-time and online program, and myself. But all of us are happy to engage, whether it's full-time, part-time, or online. We're just happy to engage and help you out with any questions you might have. So thank you, a fantastic audience and some great questions along the way in the chat room. And thank you very much to our keynote guest speakers, Robert Gotham, Diana Cooper from Annex Consulting, and Anastasia Kuchnials, our recent graduate who gave a very interesting overview of what she does currently in her world of project management. So thank you to all of you. Okay, sorry for going over time, everyone. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon.